Центру військово-політичних досліджень і координатор групи «Інформаційний спротив». Проте я думаю, що вам не потрібно його представляти останні декілька місяців. Пане Дмитре, вам слово. Дякую. Одна хвилина, секунду, в нас технічна заминка, зараз ми розпочнемо.
Once again, for interpreters, we have the Dmytro Tymchuk information resistance. Good morning. Today, during ATO, we give minimum of information. It's because of it's in the interest of our armed forces. I can speak about general trends. We would like to state that the Russian Federation, with the support of which we have these events in Donbass, they support this. They changed their format. We observed the period of peace or truce when the border was not under control of Ukrainian armed forces, and they provided equipment to the territory of Donbass, and they received a chance to regroup their forces and to prepare for future activities in the end of the truce. But those activities, luckily for us, was not efficient, and ATO forces, right in the end, they had some successful operations to liberate Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, and some other places, and the territory under control of separatists shrank. And in terms of information, we observed appealing of the head of the terroristic bands to Russia to save Novorossiysk and to bring Russian forces, etc., armed forces. So formally, Putin and Kremlin, to all those prayings, they did not react. But we observe that there was a reaction quite powerful. First of all, in Kremlin, they learned that terrorists, with their own efforts and with the support of hitmen, and the proportion is like 1/3 of all the groups, and those hitmen who came from Russia. That with those forces, they are not able to resist to ATO forces. That's why during the last week, Russia reformatted the assistance. Now we observe that in addition to heavy equipment, tanks, together with equipment, they supply crews, and quite a big number of those crews are just military men from Russian Federation. So before that, Russia hired military men from reserve who have a certain profession, mostly, and participated in armed conflicts through military committees, and with the help of money, for very good payments sent to the territory of Ukraine. But that was not enough. There was probably not enough for people who wanted to earn, or the level of the professional preparation was not good enough. Now we observe regular armed forces, crews from regular armed forces of Russia, and the level of shooting at our forces and efficiency for us went up. In addition to that, we observe two interesting moments, and in the framework of joint operation of Russia against Ukraine. First of all, during last 10 days in the Kharkiv and Sumy regions, we noticed that units of Russian Federation, and they have signs of peacekeeping forces of Russian Federation, Kharkiv and Sumy regions. Those are not areas of conflict, not areas of ATO. So the first thought was they would like to distract ATO forces from the territory of the operation. to cover the border, just to contradict to the peacekeeping intrusion of Russia to other regions. At the same time, Russia started to use the message that there is a need to have a peacekeeping operation in Ukraine. So it's not just by chance. They redislocated because the forces, because they would like to distract our resources. They know that our resources are quite restricted. I speak about prepared, trained mobilization and volunteers. You need to it takes time to train them and to provide logistically for them. So we have lots of problem with that. The Russians understand that every battalion which is taken from ATO area, there is a minus for the success of in the operation in Donbas region. At the same time, we observed during the last week. We didn't mention that, we didn't inform that, but during the weekend we received a confirmation. That's why I can speak quite openly about that. In Rostov region, special groups, intelligence groups come, brigades of special groups of Russian intelligence agency, and they will be brought to the territory of Ukraine tomorrow on the 15th. That date was mentioned several times, and we can say that all over the place they prepare for that date. The question we had in the end of the last week: how are they? Will they be brought to Ukraine as peacekeeping forces, and Russia is preparing for that, or they will be just at the format of green man like in April? And we come to the conclusion that we doubt there will be a peacekeeping operation. It's we speak about the further invasion operation when in special groups will work in Donbas on the side of terrorists, of course. That process we observed in April and May. Those special units were taken out of Crimea, and now they come back. We believe that this is because they feel agonia and of terrorists in Donbass and efforts. They wanted to save the situation by any means, and there will be terrorist activities and outside of ATO area just to distract our units from the operation. One more alarming factor, like the blow on the message that they have. Terrorists have their own planes. Everyone who learned about the situation, all the intelligence shows that this is a priori it's impossible. That they have Su-25. Russian media told that it was flying the first time near Lugansk and was shooting at ATO. It's just a fantasy, but this is on purpose. In our opinion, they plan to do the same like they did in the first tank in Donbass, when they gave information. This gunmen have armed vehicles and information. So they prepared. They were prepared with that. Were prepared with that information, and Russian Federation will apply. It's not excluded. That's the picture we have. They will apply planes in Donbass, and they will try to convince that these are planes of gunmen, and they don't have those planes. One of the factors, negative factors we observe is. And we have it from diplomatic sources that in EU there is a big fight between the group of support for Ukraine and pro-Russian lobby, which is headed by Germany and then France and Italy. Tomorrow there will be a summit, and there will be everything will be clear who supports whom. Anyway, these heavyweights. They lobby Russia in EU. That those are not those consequences could not be the best. But I doubt we can rely on sanctions of the third level. That's it. That's what I wanted to tell you. Thank you, Dmytro. Questions, journalists?
Sergio Cantone from Euronews. I have a question concerning the level of this cross-border operation made by Russians. That's a question. I mean, do you think that these people, the soldiers, the privates that are operating there, are green men, as it was the case in Crimea, or they are, say, paramilitaries, militants that came from Russia but are not official private belonging to Russian units, as it was the case in Crimea? First question. And related to that...
А можно я прошу прощения по переводу? Давайте, наверное, по очереди.
Sorry.
Ask question by question just to facilitate the process. So the first question, just in a snapshot.
Yeah. This was the first question. The first question is whether you think that there is these people are green men, as it was the case in Crimea, so official unit of a Russian army, regular soldier, or paramilitaries that are using Russian tanks or Russian APCs that came yesterday, okay, the day before yesterday.
Бойовики, яких ми наблюдаємо, які перейшли вчора з Росії, це так звані зелені чоловічки, які були в Криму, чи це підготовлені російські бойовики професійні?
По нашим данным, продолжаются потоки на юг.
They militants continue coming to Donbass, but in difference to what we had a week ago, now they have military men from armed forces of Russian Federation. In percentage, it's very difficult for me to say, but green men started to come. You know, in a day or two, I will be able to inform you about numbers.
Yes, and related to this is more or less a second question. Do you think that the aim, the goal of the ultimate goal of Russia is to create such a situation along the border directly between the two countries this time, in order to push the international community to ask Ukraine to accept a peacekeeping force, among which there could be Russian soldiers, and create a kind of fait accompli from a political point of view, in order to make Ukraine accept Russian soldiers de facto in Donbass. Of course, this could be the political situation that could justify yesterday a discussion between Merkel and Putin in Rio de Janeiro concerning the fact that Ukrainian political responsible Ukrainian leadership should sit at the table and discuss directly with the rebel leadership.
То, что вы сейчас...
What you told, that is a consequence of one global goal. Through his lobby in EU, Putin puts a lot of efforts, and that's easy to notice. He wants a Ukrainian politician to stop ATO in Donbass and to start a truce again, so-called truce. The second point about peacekeeping, Russian peacekeeping forces, and bring them to Ukraine. That can happen as a variant of further development of the situation, how they see it in Crimea. But a global goal, we see it's easy to notice that Russia wants the territory, Luhansk and Donetsk regions of Ukraine, to be a zone of permanent conflict. They want to turn them into a frozen conflict, like in Transnistria, like Abkhazia or Ossetia. So that's goal number one. In that case, if Ukraine will refuse to solve the problem of Donbass now, and then it will be like Transnistria, and it will be under protectorate of Russia, and without being a territory of Russia. But if they wanted together with the Crimea to get half of Ukraine, maybe the territory will be like a base for further occupation of Ukraine. That can happen. That's a strategy. But tactically, that's what we see. They would like to turn that into the area of frozen conflict.
Option, is it technically speaking, do you think that the peacekeeping option is an option for the Russian? And do you think that the European Union, as you said, there are Italy, France, and Germany, could give a kind of support to Russia to reach this point? I'm talking about technical issues now.
Я не думаю, что введение мира.
I don't think that Russian peacekeepers is the goal for Kremlin. That can be one of the variants. In any case, now they're using the topic, the issue of peacekeeping, in order to distract our armed forces from ATO area. They move their troops not to Rostov region, not to, it's very close to ATO, but to the north of Ukraine, where there is nothing is happening there. We explained this. They would like to distract our armed forces from ATO. There is no other explanation for that tactic. At the same time, they prepare the grounds for further bringing peacekeeping forces when there will be conditions created for that in the eyes of Kremlin. In Putin, he doesn't have one plan. He will not use one plan. And they look at all the consequences, and they have many plans. In Crimea, that was the ideal. The ideal plan for them worked. If Ukrainian armed forces started to fight in Crimea, they would use some other options. Anyways, it would be like a long fight, like in Donbass. If the operation is over, it doesn't mean that the Kremlin will stop everything. They try different variants, and we have to respect that because they're quite quick in reacting to changes in the situation. Artem Lysak, I have a local question. The leadership of ATO, they ask not to panic and not to describe conditions of our military men, but people, friends, families from military men or military men call us and they say that they cannot meet there. They don't have water, they don't have food, like 73rd Brigade. Do you have information about that? And does it reduce the morale of our armed forces? Of course. We have to confess, and the Ministry of Defense doesn't say it's not true. And panicking is supported by Russian mass media. The Ministry of Defense says we have so many men, so many armed vests. But at the same time, I would like to repeat, there was a logistic problem, and we had it, and we still have it, and especially of those voluntary battalions under the Ministry of Defense, because there are lots of questions. We have a Deputy Defense Minister who is responsible for this issue. We don't see him, and somehow he doesn't answer for all these questions. So the second part of the problem, we have to look at those territorial battalions. It says clearly that the Ministry of Defense supports them, trains them together with the local authorities. But we see local authorities only in Dnipropetrovsk, where they do everything to provide for their battalion. There are groups of businessmen, there are also volunteers. Thank God we have them. But let's answer the question, why? according to the law, local authorities must support them, but we see that support only in Dnipropetrovsk region, and so there are a lot of questions. We have to get answers for these questions. Then we'll understand the picture in general.
Надія Курцева, соціальна країна. You have just told that in the eastern Ukraine now you can see the Russian servicemen, whether they have some signs that they're the Russians. Okay, they're in the uniform of the green man, and from two sources at least we have received information from our sources in the territory of Russia. We have received information that all those servicemen were told that immediately upon military imprisonment, you will be dismissed from the military forces of Russia with the date preceding your imprisonment. That's why we imagine that officially and actually there will be no facts like Girkin keeps saying now, yes, I used to be the officer of FSB, and I was dismissed in late May, and I am now unemployed actually, but this is the role of our special services. And please describe what is the situation on the border now is. And the inability, their failure to close the border fully. They mentioned that they were simply physically unable they were unable to close the border, and the enemies managed to bring MRLS systems, GRAD systems, etc. You know, from the very beginning, I mentioned that I'm unable to speak about too much detail. I cannot disclose a lot of information to put our forces in worse position than the Russians. And currently, the law enforcement forces try to stabilize the situation and to keep the land corridor to the Lugansk airport.
Thank you very much. With the Japanese newspaper Yomiuri Shimbun, I would like to ask you about the contact group, which is comprised of OSCE, Russia, Ukraine, and two rebel groups. What do you think? How do you analyze the necessary conditions for this contact group to resume? And do you think it is difficult for this contact group to be resumed unless military situations in the eastern part of Ukraine are somehow settled? Thank you.
По моему глубокому убеждению,
I'm deeply convinced that the contact group has shown its work. It has demonstrated even an excessive will to establish peace. Our first attempt to find peace, to gain peace, we ceased fire. Unfortunately, this gave a possibility to terrorists to regroup, to get new machinery from Russia, new weapons from Russia, and this convinced us that unfortunately this format does not work. There are a lot of attempts to influence Russia, and Russia keeps saying that they are ready to maintain peace, but I believe that we should not do the same mistake once again, that is to cease fire once again, because there is a huge threat. The ceasefire should be made after full closure of the border, after reclaiming full control over terrorists in those places where they are located now. Without all these preconditions, it is not useful to have any negotiations. After some successes of the Ukrainian law enforcement and the army forces, whether now you witness some signs of demoralization in the army, or you observe some demoralization among the terrorists, whether they try to skip and try to quit to Russia, to fly to Russia. Well, I would like to explain why we do not give any information about the losses and casualties among terrorists, because our figures do not coincide with official information of at all, and not to bring the information in conflict. That's why we are not publicizing our figures. But still, what we can witness that the terrorists are very much demoralized, and there are not so many reliable terrorists in the context of military actions. Dmitry, there are no further questions. Thank you very much for your assessment.